Hey, Jasmine.
Hey, Stephen, how's it going?
Good, my friend. Welcome back to Techonomy.
Thank you for having me.
So, obviously, you're fabulous, right?
Oh.
As everybody will soon understand why.
I guess I just didn't know that, but that feels great to hear.
Right. But I'd love to sort of have you give folks in the room a quick sense of your origin story. How did you get into philanthropy and social entrepreneurship?
Yeah, definitely. I had moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2013, drove through downtown, saw lots of people on the streets that were homeless, and really just became inspired and decided to go home, post on Facebook that I was going to start having a Sunday dinner for people that were experiencing homelessness. And then I just started cooking meals in my kitchen and taking them out on the streets and feeding people, turned that into a pop-up restaurant. So I was renting tables and chairs and linens and actually printing out menus and letting people feel as though they were dining in a restaurant, trying to give them back their dignity. And that's how I got started in 2013.
And when did the light bulb go off in your head that there was something that would ultimately lead to Gooder?
Well, I would say the light bulb went off when a video from one of my pop-up restaurants underneath a bridge went viral on Facebook. And so I woke up one morning to millions of views and comments. And as I was reading through the comments, one of the reoccurring questions people kept on saying was, "This is so amazing, which restaurants donate the food?" And the reality was nobody. I was couponing, I was price matching. I always say I'm the reason Walmart doesn't price match anymore. And, then I'm cooking all the food, I'm cleaning up at my kitchen. And so I start thinking like, why don't I get this food donated? It would make my life a lot easier.
Yeah. Should pause for a second to give some quick context. So more than half of all produce in the U.S. is thrown away each year, mostly from restaurants and grocery stores. Across the industrialized world, $680 billion worth of food is wasted, right? So that's helping make the business case for Gooder. How does Gooder work in a nutshell?
Definitely. So essentially, we inventory everything it is that a business sells, and we make it extremely easy for them to manage their food waste. So at the end of the night, they can request a pickup for any food that they could donate.
Who's they, to be clear?
Our customers. So our customers are typically restaurants, grocery stores, sports and entertainment venues, convention centers, any business that has food, hotels, hopefully soon. And they simply click on the items, they say how many they have. Our platform then calculates the weight of those items. We do all of that on onboarding, as well as the tax value. And when they push request pickup, we work with shared economy, ride share companies. So we're working with Roadie, Postmates, Lyft. The food gets picked up by a driver and then it's delivered to a nonprofit within typically a 3 to 7 mile radius, depending on the city. The nonprofit receives it, they sign for it like they would a UPS package, and then a donation letter is generated into that customer's portal. And on the portal, we also roll up a lot of sustainability data for the customers. So we could tell them for every pound of food they keep out of landfill, how many carbon emissions they're helping to reduce, how many gallons of water they're saving, just a wealth of information that they have. So now they have data and analytics as well on the items that they waste the most of. So they've never really had control of their waste stream, right? You're typically throwing it away, or even if you are donating it, you're donating without knowledge of what you're wasting. And so Gooder now allows them to have the data, the true tax saving value of everything that they've donated, impact reports so they can see who they're supporting, the causes, and then the sustainability dashboard that can roll right into their sustainability reports or even their board reports, and we saw a lot of that this year.
Talk to us for a bit about blockchain and how that's helping you sort of organize and grow your business and share information back to your customers.
I think blockchain really is just the future of data, and for Gooder, we realized that we were dealing with tax deductions, and we wanted to make sure our customers were somewhat protected. If the IRS ever came to them and said, how are you trying to write off $10 million in food donations when you've never done this before? Now there's this hyperledger that shows every time they requested food for pickup, when Gooder recovered it, and when a nonprofit received it. And then it doesn't allow the business to go in and change the numbers. And so they can't, on a day that they donated, say 100 pizzas, go and say, let's add in an additional 0 because it has to now be verified. And then we're using a smart contract with the nonprofits, allowing that signature to send a donation letter on their behalf.
Sure. Food safety is obviously extremely important in what you're doing. Explain how you're navigating the food safety laws in different parts of the country.
Yeah, and every single city and county is different. So it's not even just a city. I mean, we're trying to launch in Miami right now, and Miami-Dade and Broward County, maybe 15 minutes away from each other, completely different rules. So we do a lot of R&D before we go into a market. But the difference between Gooder and when you say order food from Postmates, your food still has to be prepared. So you may see 40, 50 minutes for a driver to bring it to you. When food is entered for pickup with Gooder, it's already ready. So we're actually seeing food getting picked up sometimes in a matter of 4 to 5 minutes and then delivered. Sometimes that whole entire transaction is taking 12 minutes. Because we're keeping it so close. And then, yeah, we measure food safety in a variety of ways. All of our nonprofit recipients are also certified ServSafe food handlers. So upon registering with Gooder, we verify that. We verify that, of course, any food that we recover is prepared in a commercial kitchen. And then the biggest thing is keeping it very close to where it's coming from is the best case that we have.
What's been the trickiest part of scaling Gooder? And how are you scaling?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best part is that we now have really expanded this logistics partnership network. So we have drivers in every single city that you could think of. And so I think the trickiest part is getting people to look at solving hunger in new ways. I think that we have been really kind of tricked in thinking that charity is the only way to do it, right? We're doing canned food drives. Our corporations are so happy to send people to the food bank. It's viewed as the community, icon to solve hunger. And the reality is, if you really stop and you think about it, these ways have not solved hunger. What we continue to do is we're supporting the same businesses and we're doing the same. We're donating our money and we're going out, we're doing canned food drives. But the reality is the statistics around hunger do not change. And the kind of food that we're giving people is not well balanced. It's not healthy. And so what we really have to do oftentimes is go in, talk to businesses about food waste, like sharing those statistics that you just rattled off. So many people are ignorant to the fact that they're wasting a lot of food, that it's bad for the environment, and that wasted food is wasted money. So they're actually paying Waste Management or Republic Solid or whatever waste company that they use to actually throw this food away when they can actually be impacting their bottom line. So I think a lot of our job on the onset is education, and then we're actually taking a tops-down approach. So we work with SAP, we're working with the NFL, we're having really good conversations with the NBA and the Major League Baseball Association so that we get their buy-in, and then now we just expand across their network. So we're not having to go door to door, restaurant to restaurant. We really want to take the whole franchise and expand with them.
Sure. Briefly share, before we go to questions from the audience, briefly share some of the sort of responses that you got from potential investors and even partners about working with you, right? Especially, I mean, we should point out that less than half of 1% of all VC dollars go to Black women. So how have you even navigated that world?
I freaking hate that statistic.
Right?
It sucks
It's horrible.
to hear. I hate that statistic. So I think when I was thinking about raising funds, that statistic was told to me. And what essentially we were saying was, yeah, you should jump in that ocean and try and swim across, but only 1 out of 1,000 people make it. And so it was actually a statistic that I think made me have a lot of fear in going to raise funding. And the reality is, quite frankly, when I was talking to investors and I'm talking about hunger, I'm talking about food waste, most of the investors that I met with were white males, many who had never been hungry, many who couldn't relate to my story of being in my kitchen in Atlanta, Georgia, and feeding people that were homeless on the streets. And so what I had to do was change my pitch. And I couldn't talk about how this company could change the world, how we could reshape how people have thought about hunger in this country for years and years. I started talking about the business case and that policy and legislation was starting to pop up in a lot of different cities and states that were going to make businesses have a solution for food diversion and organic waste. And I think when I came in and talked about that opportunity, then it worked out a lot better. I mean, I would get questions from investors like, oh, well, will you ever have too much food and no one to feed? And I'm like, well, if we get to that point, we've really done a lot, but we're so far from that. But that was the truth. I mean, that's what we dealt with a lot of times. And so, I mean, what I would tell everyone here, and definitely want to take questions, is we actually donate billions upon billions of dollars to nonprofit organizations to solve these same problems. But as a social entrepreneur, it's so hard for us to even get a fraction of that. And so if I could get just a percentage of the $2 billion that was donated to hunger fighting causes last year. Not only could I create more economic opportunity in the cities that we operate in, lots of jobs for people, we come in as entrepreneurs with a focus on the solve and not a focus on the let us be still in existence. I'm not going to spend that money on advertising and on billboards and getting celebrity endorsements to talk about hunger. I'm going to spend the money to actually hire people to do the work. And that's the biggest thing that I think is the greatest opportunity. A lot of people in the giving space have got to start investing their money in social entrepreneurs that are trying to solve these causes.
And in fact, you're recommending that philanthropists and individual investors consider, putting 10% of their contributions into social entrepreneurs like yourself, right?
I think the returns are a lot better because obviously if you've been investing in hunger fighting charities for 30 years, you haven't solved hunger, right? So if you're going to invest in an entrepreneur, not only do you have an opportunity to get money back if that entrepreneur and that company is successful, but you're actually going to see real impact statistics on a daily basis of what they're doing.
Questions for Jasmine from the audience?
It's really bright.
Yeah. No questions for Jasmine. Right here, please introduce yourself. Give us 1 second, please.
Hi, I'm Allison from Morgan Stanley.
Hi, Allison.
Could you talk a little bit more about, you said food banks aren't providing nutritional meals. Could you talk about how that plays out in reality? What does that really mean? Could you break that down?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you guys a quick example and leave with this. A few years ago, I was doing a lot of research, so I volunteered at a food pantry, and there was about 50 people in line waiting to come and get their weekly portion of food, and what we were giving them were 2 bottles of Diet Snapple, a bag of kettle potato chips, a gallon of barbecue sauce, Weight Watchers Ding Dongs, which is no fun, right? Belvita breakfast biscuits. Yeah, Belvita breakfast biscuits. We were giving them a can of refried beans, a can of peas, and a small can of corn, a superhero-shaped vegetable-enriched macaroni noodle, and French green beans, the kind that would go on a green bean casserole. And that is what we were giving people, and there were about 100 people in line to get it. And that's what I talk about between the difference where Gooder can come and work with a company or a business like Ritz-Carlton and get the kind of food that was left over after we had lunch today and now get that to a family. And that's the difference between what we do and what food pantries do.
It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Is there one more question for Jasmine from the audience? Oh.
Hi, I'm Kitty with the Aspen Institute. Thank you for this, because I'm passionate about this myself. I'm still unclear, how do you deliver food from, say, the Ritz-Carlton here within 5 minutes to somebody needy? How do you go directly to families? Do you go only to food banks? And it also raises the whole question of, I thought there were a lot of rules and regulations about not distributing food from pre-prepared food from restaurants that made it really complicated. So are the rules changing around the country around this?
Yeah, I think what I would call that is, I think the rules have been changed since 1996 when President Bill Clinton signed the Good Samaritan Act, which essentially says in clear writing, businesses donating food in good faith will not be held liable. And so I think what we do is we pass these acts and we sign them, and we don't educate businesses or the community on what the law really is. So that notion of, oh, it's illegal or someone will get sick is what we think. And so that is incorrect. It's actually not only legal in many cities and states, it's actually being encouraged and incentives are offered to businesses. We do serve a variety of people and not just food banks. As a matter of fact, we don't deliver to any food banks. Our nonprofit recipients typically look like veterans homes, group homes, so in some cases this is going right to a house that maybe is housing 15 to 20 young men that are parentless. We are also serving homeless shelters, we're serving after-school programs, we're serving a lot of senior programs. That's one of our largest recipients. We have a national partnership with National Church Residences and Mercy Care. So a lot of affordable, low-income senior citizens receive food from us. We have a program called Gooder Girls. It's a spinoff of Golden Girls, if you guys have ever seen that show. And those women get alerts when food is coming to the senior home. They receive it, they announce it to the entire building, and I've never seen the seniors move so fast. So we really have this network that we've built. We have nonprofit registrations in 42 states and 17 countries, and so we have a really way more need than we have supply.
Is there one more question for Jasmine? Awesome. Jasmine, thank you so much
Thanks so
for
much,
the work you're
Stephen.
doing.